Now, Saudi Arabia is hoping to bring a further 1.3 million women into the workforce under its big economic reform programme. It's all part of the country's efforts to overcome its reliance on oil and boost the private sector. But with women still not allowed to drive, the kingdom is looking to ride-hailing apps to get them to work. Flora Bradley-Watson has this report.
Being a woman in Saudi Arabia has just become a whole lot easier. With the advance of ride-hailing apps, they now have an alternative way of moving around the city.
As women in Saudi Arabia, we are not allowed to drive, and we do not have enough money to bring a car with a driver. The Careem app has resolved all these problems.
Saudi Arabia has been courting Uber and its Dubai-based rival Careem. Last June, its sovereign wealth fund invested $3.5 billion in Uber, while state-controlled Saudi Telecom has bought a 10% share in Careem for $100 million. The majority of people using these apps are women. In traditional Saudi society, women are not allowed to interact with men they're not related to, but a zero-tolerance driver complaints policy offers a way around this.
Women is a very interesting topic for us. More than 80% of the riders in Saudi are women that take Uber to go either to education or to the workforce or maybe start up their own company. I think there is a very big appetite for women to actually use Uber in Saudi to move around, and we've managed to provide a service that is really needed.
It's all part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, which has been devised by Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He's trying to shift the economy away from its reliance on oil and bring more women into the workforce. He wants to create nearly 500,000 jobs in the private sector over the next 4 years. Uber and Careem say they will create half this amount in the next 2 years.
Within this year, our whole supply changed. The number of cars and the number of captains who are actually Saudis changed from being 0% to 60% today. So 60% already today of our whole fleet is Saudized.
But the issue still remains that women aren't allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. This video mocking the kingdom's driving laws has been viewed more than 3 million times. Critics say the cost of hiring drivers puts an unnecessary strain on household budgets and contributes to capital outflow. For Vision 2030 to be realised, people say there needs to be more social reform. Flora Bradley-Watson, TRT World.
Now, for more on this, TRT World, Sourav Roy joins me. Sourav, thanks for joining us. Now, the integration of women into the Saudi workforce, as we heard there, is a crucial part of this Vision 2030. But how feasible is this, or is this another kind of bit of political spin that we're seeing from Saudi Arabia?
Well, it's a good start. I mean, the fact that a huge proportion of Saudi women who are a part of the workforce now have mobility and are not dependent on chauffeurs or are not dependent on other men to drive them means that they now have the liberty of going to work and also exploring opportunities whether to start their own startups. And I think that's a good start.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's essentially unlocking 50% of the workforce. But, you know, tell us a little bit more about Vision 2030. Why is it necessary for Saudi Arabia at this time?
Well, Saudi Arabia's king, King Salman Abdulaziz bin Saud, knows very well that he cannot let his country, which is right now one of the top 20 economies in the world, be a hostage of commodity price or oil pricing or, let's say, volatile markets. And so he wants to move away from a petroleum or an oil-based economy to a knowledge-based economy, to a digital economy where he can rely on fintech, or he can rely on new disruptive digital technologies to take the economy forward.
That's a great point. Tell us a little bit more about those investments that Saudi Arabia is making in the tech space. What else are they doing?
To start with, Saudi Arabia has collaborated with SoftBank, and they've come with a $100 billion corpus fund to invest in digital technologies, in apps, in startups, in companies that can help them launch their own ecosphere of a perfect economy. To me, it is something like what Singapore did 50 years ago. It was a tiny fishing village, but then it invested in just the right knowledge-based economy, just the right knowledge-based sectors, and today it's one of the top 3 economies in the world, or it's also one of the richest in the world. That's precisely what Saudi Arabia wants to do. It wants to turn its public investment fund into the world's largest sovereign wealth fund as well. So that is precisely what 2030 aims at. And one of the goals of that is also to incorporate women and make them a part of the workforce.
Great. Sourav Roy, thank you very much indeed.